guys. I am so excited to introduce you today to Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist, author, and professor Alysia Burton Steele. Wow, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate this.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate you so much. So I've got just a few career highlights. Did I mention the Pulitzer Prize? You are also a published author of Delta Jewels in Search of My Grandmother's Wisdom, which is in the Library of Congress and has won multiple awards. You've designed books for Dr. Maya Angelou, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Habitat for Humanity's 20th anniversary, where you won a huge award for photography excellence. You're a professor at University of Mississippi. You founded your own nonprofit for scholarships for students. I could go on and on and on, but I want to hear about your advice and what you have to tell us. So can you walk us through your extraordinary career journey, please? Pulitzer Prize.
Oh my gosh, you give me way too much credit. Okay, you give me way too much credit, and I can say the same about your accolades too. So let's see, where do I start? I started out as a newspaper photographer. That was always my dream. Actually, combat photographer was actually my dream. And I worked for newspapers, worked my way up as photo editor and then deputy director of photography. And I got a call in 2005, I believe, to work for the Dallas Morning News, which was my dream job. It was not the New York Times, even though I love them, or Washington Post. It was the Dallas Morning News, because I knew the history of the photo department. The director of photography had won 3 Pulitzers on his own. He's amazing, and I wanted to work for him. So when I got the call, I was excited. And I had been on the job for 2 months as a picture editor when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. I was watching the news. It was my job to pick photos for the paper for the next day. And we had a plan for when Katrina made land, hit land, made land, I forgot what it's called. Let me say that over. Katrina was going to hit land, and it sounded like it was a more forceful hurricane than anticipated. And it went up in category level. And so I called the director of photography. Now remember, I've been at the job for 2 months. And I said, you know, Katrina looks like it's going to be worse than we anticipated. I think we need to send photographers out sooner rather than later. I think we're going to miss it if we do. And he said, you're on the desk, make a decision. And I went back and forth because, okay, if I send photographers out sooner and nothing really happens, I've wasted resources. And if I send them and it is, then I'm putting them directly in harm's way, right? But that's part of the call, is working as a photojournalist. You go where the action is. So I made the decision and we went. And so I was not one of the photographers. I was the picture editor who made the decision to go when we did. And that's what led to the Pulitzer Prize, all of the incredible work by the photographers. We had photographers out in groups, in increments. They went out, some would go out and then they would come back, rejuvenate and go back out. We did this for almost a year of covering Katrina. So, and then we published a book. And from that, I got another call from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to come be the deputy director of photography at nights. So I took that job. And then after 2 years, I noticed that the world was changing. There was more multimedia, and newspapers were starting to dabble more into videography. And I wanted to learn how to edit the work that the photographers were starting to do with video, and I didn't have the skill set to do that. And the newspaper at that time didn't think that editors needed to have that skill set. So I quit my job and went to grad school to get those skill sets, and then came back out and decided to go. I really enjoyed teaching when I was a graduate assistant, and so went into academia. So wow. That's it in a nutshell.
Wow, I have so many things to say. And the first thing that came to mind with Katrina was good photography is so important because it puts us in the shoes of the people who are there. And for us to have empathy and not just think, oh, that's just something that I don't need to know about or whatever. When you have a photograph that really encapsulates what's going on somewhere else, it's so important for the rest of the world to see that. You must have seen that in your career time and again.
Absolutely. I mean, we're a visual society. We're visual people. That's how we remember moments. When something happens in this country or abroad, the first thing we do is to look to see what happened. So photographers are on the front lines, risking their lives to document things so that people in our society can see what's happening in the world. It's important for our democracy, for the press to be there. We immediately want to know what happened, and it's the pictures that pull you in. It's the headline might capture your attention, but it's the pictures that you remember. Think about every major thing that's happened in this country, and it's a visual, it's not a headline.
Right. Wow, that's so true. I so admire your courage to turn your passion from your childhood and your teens and your young adulthood into a career. And I think so many people really are afraid to take that leap, financial reasons and everything else. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to just go after their dream in an art field?
Right. Well, I mean, my family wasn't initially supportive of photography. I got scholarships to go to college to study it. My family would not let me go. They told me to pick a real major.
Oh no.
And yes, and I went to college and flunked out the first time because I was so unhappy that I couldn't study photography. I studied journalism, which was great, but I missed the photography, and so I flunked out. And I put myself through art school, and then I went back to that school that I flunked out 8 years later and got my degree. And then I went on to do internships to become a photojournalist. I did my internships after graduation. And I say to people, and now as an educator, I'm a big supporter of letting children pursue their passions. And I know that's scary for parents, you know. You want your children to have more than you have, good parents do, and you want them to have a way to make a living and to have a good home life. I understand that. But when your child is passionate and that passion stays there, I think it's only right to let them pursue that so that they can have happiness. I wasted 2 years of my life in college being completely withdrawn, unhappy, depressed, because I couldn't study what I wanted to study. So I think it's really important to pay attention to what you're passionate about and what you're good at and what you want to learn. And life is too short to be unhappy. And give yourself ample time to forge your way. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I thank you for sharing your story, because I think if we do pursue a path that we're not passionate about and then we don't do well in that area, it's such a sign to say, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes we can press on and say, but I have to, and then we're miserable. I mean, and who needs that? And conversely, you could follow your passion and say, I love this, but not as a living. Let me keep it as a hobby and do something else. So unless you try, you just don't know.
Exactly.
Wow.
I mean, you nailed it. That's exactly what you have to do, but you'll never know if you don't try, right?
Exactly.
You're just not going to know. And if you don't, and it becomes a hobby, that's fine too. That gives you another way to have a creative outlet or a scientific outlet in your life. Like, it allows you to be a multi-dimensional person. So I think it's really important to pursue those passions, even if they scare you.
Yeah, I agree. And what we're trying to address in this Go For It series is, kind of get over the fear of going for it and really trying. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to start their own business or start a nonprofit like you did, how to get over that, hump of what if it's not successful and I don't want to look foolish or anything like that?
I don't think you look foolish when you try for something that you're passionate about. I think it's foolish to not go after something that you're passionate about. So I think the first hump is to just take that first step, whether it's writing a business plan, or if it's talking to someone who's a successful business person that you respect and getting advice from them. If you do your own research, it doesn't hurt to do those things, to talk to people, to do your research, to come up with a plan. It doesn't hurt if you're a creative person to shadow an artist, like just get your feet wet and see if it's for you. It's just, you're selling yourself short when you don't take that first step and finding out more about what you're passionate for. For example, the book that I wrote, I didn't believe that other people would find value in me documenting these older Black women in the Mississippi Delta. And I didn't have a lot of confidence as a beginning educator. And this New York Times religion columnist was visiting our campus, and we had breakfast together. Our journalism school had breakfast with him. And I was listening to the other educators talk about their passion projects and the books that they were working on, or the articles they were writing, or the research they were doing. And I didn't say anything. I was just soaking it all in because I didn't have enough confidence in myself to talk about my work. And one of the deans said, excuse me, he said, "Al, did you tell so-and-so what you're doing?" And I said, "No." And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm driving in the Mississippi Delta, and I'm interviewing elder Black women about their life during the Jim Crow era in Mississippi. I'm photographing them and I'm collecting their oral histories." And it turned into this one-on-one conversation that he was so interested about. You know, he was really interested in what I was doing. I was like, really? Like, I didn't think he would be interested. He said, "When you're done, I'm going to come back and write about you." And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure you are. But he did. And that one article led to book deals. And if I hadn't been pushed to talk about my work, and if I hadn't had my words to articulate what my project was about, I wouldn't have had the book deal. And so when you don't believe in yourself, when you don't even talk about what you love, you're selling yourself short. And you're selling people short of knowing about what you do. And so that lesson for me was to talk about the work that I do and not be arrogant. You know, that's not what it's about, but it's educating other people, to let them know what else is going on, to let them know about important work that you're doing. If you keep that in yourself and you stay in your own bubble, you're selling yourself short, and people aren't going to know what you're doing, and you're not going to make a change in your life, and you're not going to be able to pursue your happiness if you don't believe in yourself.
I'm going to remember that story for the rest of time. That is such a perfect, beautiful story. Wow. And it's so true, because we can do anything we want just kind of in our heads and in our computers or whatever. But if we want to get it out there, we do have to open ourselves up and not be afraid and share it. And hopefully it ends up, you know, really well. Or if not the first thing we try, the second or third thing is the one, or, you know, that kind of thing. And I think it's also so important too, to have the confidence, and also, as you were talking about, to get information from other people. As in, I know I want to write, let's say, but I don't really know the nuts and bolts. Who can I ask? What research can I do to do it properly? So it's kind of a combination of the two.
Absolutely. And when I was growing up, we had encyclopedias. We didn't have Google, right? And everything is at your fingertips. You can find out anything. You can find out how to do anything on YouTube, and to find resources in Google or whatever other search engine you want to use. There's no excuse. There's literally no excuse to not do research. And so I just think about, that was such a huge life lesson for me, to humbly talk about what I was doing, to ask for advice. Working in a bubble is the worst thing you could possibly do, because you're isolated and you're not getting perspective, you're not getting feedback. And what's the worst that someone can say? I mean, literally, are we going to die if someone says no?
Yeah. Yeah, right. You're so right.
I mean, the worst someone can say is no, and it might not even be like no, it might be not right now. You know, everything happens, and it's so cliche, but everything happens for a reason, when it's supposed to be discovered, or when it's supposed to be written about. And I believe that our books, our stories have already been written. We're just reading the pages to find out what's happening, right? That's what I believe. And so, you know, uh, turn your page. Turn your page to find out what happens next.
I'm a tiny bit choked up. That's so beautiful.
You have a plan, but it's so true though, right?
Yeah,
Your story has already been written. If you believe in something higher than yourself, right?
Mhm.
Our lives have already been planned out. This is just my belief. And we're just turning the page and finding out what happened. But you have to be willing to be an active participant.
Mm-hmm. And be willing to see what that next page looks like. It's not always, fabulous. We don't know what it's going to be, but it could be sort of, you have to start down here to then get up there. And we all want to start up here, We want the book published, but we don't have to go through the 3 years or whatever it is to write it,
Exactly. You know about that. You're writing and you're going through the editing process. Like everything is a process.
It is.
And nothing is easy, really. I mean, it takes effort, it takes belief, it takes determination, it takes grit,
Mm-hmm.
blood, sweat, and tears. Sometimes it's life. And if you live in a bubble and you don't come outside that bubble, I just think that's really sad. Because you're selling yourself short.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And I love looking at it from that perspective. You have had tremendous success. Have I mentioned the Pulitzer Prize? But also, but obviously you must have come across roadblocks and challenges along the way. What's your advice for people to overcome those?
Man, just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a stubborn person. And if I have one thing blocking me, I've learned to do walkarounds. Like, and also being a photographer, photography to me is like 75% problem solving. Because, if you don't have good light, you've got to figure out where to get it or how to create it. If you don't like your angle, you've got to figure out another angle. If you don't like the background, you've got to manipulate and move around so that you get the background that you want. So I'm just used to problem solving. And I don't like the word no. So I'm just going to keep going until I don't get any more no's. And I think that has to come from within.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of the pitfalls that I've had, I've just learned to have workarounds.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's fascinating because I think when we think about photography, we think all about the subject. You're taking a picture of that building or that person, or whatever, but there's so much more. If there's not good enough light, you can't see the person or whatever it is. So it's interesting how from your eye, you're looking at everything, in addition to the subject. And that's fascinating. Wow.
Right. But it's no different than if you're singing, right? I'm speaking to this acclaimed artist who's had how many album releases. I mean, so I'm going to throw some of that back at you, but if you don't like the way that you've hit a note, then you try another one. It's the same thing for photography. If I don't like the angle or if I don't like the light, I try to find another angle. I try to manipulate the light, open windows, open doors. It's that kind of thing,
Wow. And I would think even though you've been doing it for so many years, you're still learning. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I would be such an arrogant piece of work if I didn't think that I had more to learn. Right. I don't edit any of my work by myself. When I did my first book, I had my mentor, my dissertation, my master's thesis chair, do all of the editing behind me. I do not work alone. And I tell my husband that when we work together on a lot of projects, don't work in your own bubble, share as you're going. You're wasting time. What if somebody else has a different perspective and you've done all of this by yourself and you presented this beautiful package, and then they have some critical feedback that's really important, and then you have to go back to the drawing board. So in increments, I go and I ask for help so that I'm not wasting my time, I'm not wasting resources. And I think it's so detrimental when you don't ask for help or ask for feedback. It's so arrogant.
Yeah, that's so true. And if you think about, this is why, movie directors have cinematographers and dancers have choreographers and musicians have sound engineers. We're not supposed to know everything. If we come with the nugget of the art first, the people who know what they're doing around can take care of what they have to do. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
then just think, sometimes we have tunnel vision and we think that we know everything and we have tunnel vision, but someone else is saying, oh, have you thought about this? Did you see that? Did you
Yeah.
hear this?
Yeah.
Maybe this sentence can be revised so that it's a little bit stronger this way. And so I think it's so important to work and have a trusted tribe. You have
Oh,
to have a good tribe.
yes. And I would say probably a fairly thick skin when we need to, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you really get down to the bones of it, it's really not about you. It's about it's about the product, whatever that is. It's
Yes.
not about your ego. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Wow. That's so true. For any art, that's so true. And for that matter, any business as well. It
Right.
should be about the product and the process, not the CEO or, whoever came up with the idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. So tell
Oh,
thank you. What are you working on now, and where can people find you and all of your wonderfulness?
so I'm working on a memoir right now. Um, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. So I'm biracial. My mom's white, my dad's Black, and race, being a biracial person, has always been it's always been like this struggle for me to find my place, even at 51 now. And when my mom died, I found a book that she had handwritten when she was 15. It was 1967. And she had just turned 15. Her father had just died. And she was writing about her life. And it's 47 pages of her beautiful handwriting in blue ink. And she talked about urbanism and the civil rights movement and equality in education. I was like, wow, my mom was like talking about urban history when she was 15. She was talking about policies. And so all of these things that she couldn't say to me growing up, like she didn't share her deep thoughts. She was so guarded. And so I got to learn more about my mom after she died. And so I'm writing a memoir about growing up biracial in the 60s and 70s, trying to still find who I am, and then having this conversation with her through what she wrote when she was 15. And it was so bizarre because it was on the floor of her bedroom closet, and it wasn't in a box, it wasn't wrapped, it was just laying on the floor. And it was in mint condition, which lets me know that she had it somewhere saved and then put it on the floor. I mean, it was under her flip-flops. I don't understand why it was there. And I think that she was saying, here, Lisa, here's who I am. Here's all the things I couldn't say to you. So that's what I'm writing about now. And then another book I'm writing, it's halfway done. It's a collection of oral histories of the last generation who handpicked cotton in Mississippi, Black and white, male and female. And my husband and I are co-authoring that together. And we're taking pictures of the people so people can see where they live and what they look like, and some of their mementos and like their quilts that their mothers made, but filled with the cotton that they had handpicked. So, but because of COVID, we've had to pause that because I can't interview a 90-year-old over the phone or over Zoom, so it's just on hold for right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. I cannot wait to see that when it comes out. Wow. Oh my goodness. And when are you back at school teaching all the young impressionable minds at Ole Miss?
I am on sabbatical this semester. So thank God. So what that means, and I love teaching. It just means that I get to focus on my project without teaching.
Right.
Every professor gets that after a certain number of semesters working. You can take a semester off to just work on a project, whether it's a book, an article, research, a film, produce a play, that kind of thing. You get that uninterrupted time to work on your project. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm also taking doctoral classes. I'm almost done. So I'm taking classes and working on my dissertation this semester.
Wow, amazing. I could talk to you all day, but last question, what are you most looking forward to when the world opens back up again?
Hugging my dad. I haven't seen my dad in over a year. He just did his first video call with me. He did not forewarn me. I had no makeup on. It was at night. I didn't have the light on. I was watching TV in the dark, and my dad finally figured out how to do a video chat, and I looked a hot mess, but it's my dad.
Yeah.
And so I really miss him. But I also want to have drinks and dinner with my girlfriends.
Yes. Oh, that sounds heavenly. That sounds so great. Wow.
What about you?
Pretty much the same. I cannot wait to eat in a restaurant. I cannot wait to hug my extended family members. I cannot wait to travel and just see something else, especially the ocean. I cannot wait to get to the ocean and breathe in the salt air and all of that. Again, we've been very lucky. You know, we have a roof over our heads and we have had all of our needs met during this time. But I'm very much looking forward to being elsewhere for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to when I don't have to see the numbers of COVID deaths on TV.
Yes.
You know, I'm looking forward to not seeing that at all.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Point. Wow. Tell everyone your website, please, so we can find you in all of your magnificence.
Oh, thank you. It's AlysiaSteele.com, and that's ALYSIA Steele STEELE.com.
We'll have it down there in the notes. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Wonderful. Good luck with all of your projects. It has been such a joy to talk to you. And when everything opens up, I'm going to come and audit a class, if you don't mind. Would that be okay?
I'd love that. You are welcome in my class anytime. I'm sorry about the clock.
Oh, that's all good.
Hour. So sorry about that.
You're all good.
Yeah, you are welcome into my classroom anytime. In fact, I'd love to watch you sing.
Oh, hopefully sometime soon we'll be back out there.
I hope so. You have a beautiful voice.
Oh.
So talented.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you so much. Stay well. Mwah.
You too. Take care, Rachel. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.